Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning.
Happy Saturday.
It is Saturday.
It
Is
is.
this when we're supposed to sleep in?
I know, right? We should be having
Maybe that was
brunch.
some old working days.
Well, the hope was that we could have more people participate if we did a weekend, like
Right.
Friday, Saturday.
It makes sense.
Yeah, we just try different things and see if it works for people's schedules and adjust as we can.
Yep.
Yeah. All righty.
Oh, they really are throwing these candies. Oh my.
There we go. I just muted Camille. All righty. Well, welcome everybody. Looks like most everybody was here yesterday. I think Dave O, good to see you. So you're new today, but we know you well. And let's see here. Looks like everybody is repeat from yesterday. I didn't know if we might have some surprise pop-ons, folks that registered and just weren't able to come on Friday. Yeah, we'll just see how things go as we move forward. Again, I'm Shannon, and if we could, I think it's always helpful to rename ourselves. So again, if you take your mouse and hover over your own image, then an ellipsis, 3 dots pop up, click on that. The menu will offer a rename option, and you can put the name that you'd like to be called by and the city in which you live. Helps us to remember who and where we are.
Shannon, we talked about that a little bit yesterday because I'm on an iPad. Does anybody know how I can do that?
I can help you, Kim. I can do it from this side.
Okay, would you just put where I'm from? The name part is fine, but it's Yorba Linda, California.
Okay. Yorba Linda.
Thank you.
Of course. Easily done. Easily done. Hopefully everyone slept well, had a good meal after our marathon session yesterday. We've got one more today. Yes. All right, just kind of pausing and seeing if anyone else is going to be joining us, but I think we'll go ahead and get started. So again, I'm Shannon in Santa Fe, and I'm co-facilitating this in-sync workshop with Rachel, who's calling in from Phoenix. And then we've got Kelly in Nashville, and she's helping us with all the technical matters, things behind the scenes. If you have any questions regarding your devices or technical things, you can chat her up privately. She can help you out. Just wanted to remind you, in the preparation email that you received prior to the workshop, there is an in-sync agreement link that I was hoping that you could click on and then read that agreement and sign it by clicking at the bottom. If anyone has any issues finding that, just let us know. And then again, just a reminder for your printed materials. So that PDF that we had sent ahead of time, if you have those things, we're going to be using those a little bit more today. So that if that's handy in front of you, you won't have to struggle with the small print and such on the screen, and a pen or a pencil and your beverage of choice. It is Saturday morning. I don't know if anyone has a mimosa brunch. Wouldn't that be lovely? I've got my sparkling water with me. So what do you have, Angela? Is that coffee? Yes. Dunkin', is that Dunkin' Donuts? Nice. Good. Okay. And I think we have Myra, who's new today. We were in touch about her joining today. Anyone else new that I just didn't see other than Dave? Okay. I think we're all good then. Excellent. Well, I am going to start by sharing my screen, and we can get going today. All right. Is everyone seeing that pretty well? All righty. So welcome back. Day 2. Just a quick reminder of our collaboration agreements, which are the expectations that we have of each other as we move along together in this workshop. So please mute your mic when necessary, so we don't have the distraction of the background noise. listen deeply to one another as we share and talk in our breakout rooms, building on each other's ideas by saying, yes, I hear you, and I have this idea too. Moving with intention, because time just clips along, even though we have 3 hours, it's amazing. And then, of course, always being patient with technology and with one another as we navigate this crazy Zoom thing. Okay, so I'd like to start today with a check-in exercise that I like to call the gratitude chat storm. So it's a simple and short, brief, but powerful activity that we're going to do together. But remember that this is something that you can utilize in your groups, whether it be in person or on Zoom, but it's really a great way to check in with one another right from the get-go, get everybody participating and contributing off the bat. So it's not, they're not just witnessing, observing, they're actually participating. And so that just brings a whole different energy. And so I would always recommend that at the beginning of your meetings, doing some sort of activity where everyone gets to speak, whether it be to a partner or to the whole room. But it's also, I think, a good way just to make sure we're all present and in a shared space and in the right mindset to be moving forward into a session. So this gratitude chat storm, I would love you to open up your chat window. And so they're usually at the bottom of your screen, depending on your device. Just hit chat, open that up. And I'd love you to share one thing that you are grateful for today. And so it can be something really big. It can be something really small, like your Dunkin' Donuts coffee, whatever that might be for you. But just take a couple of moments to write something in the chat and then read what others have to say for themselves as far as what they're grateful for. So I'm seeing sunshine. Oh, yes, love that. The fall weather, family members, green tea. Okay. The oil burner repairman. Yes, we do want heat. Sunshine. That's a popular one today. Good friends, a positive attitude. Love that. Meds are kicking in. Awesome, Dave. Chocolate. Yes, that's always a nice pick me up. Something to be grateful for. I am grateful for the bird bath that I have in my backyard that I can see outside my window. And so I have some robins and different kinds of birds visiting all day, and I get to look at them and enjoy their presence. Birthdays, coffee, awesome. So as we are continuing to get some contributions here, the gratitude, the sharing here, I just want to reiterate how important it is. We talked about it in yesterday's session, but how important gratitude is. And it's, science research is really showing that when we acknowledge what we're grateful for on a daily basis, it can really change the neural pathways in our brain to have a more positive experience and just overall appreciation for life. So I would suggest that you can incorporate these gratitude exercises in your groups in some way, and then in your personal lives as well. Sounds like some of you have journals and different things that you do for yourselves on a daily basis. So that's wonderful. Okay, everybody. Thank you for sharing that. That always makes me feel better. And hopefully you feel the same way. And let's talk a little bit about what we have in store. So just as a quick reminder, what we did yesterday, we covered a few things. We talked about the new normal or the next normal, next paradigm, whatever we want to call that. We talked about the fear learning growth model as a way to frame a process of moving forward for greater wellness for ourselves. In our roundtable, we talked about what do we miss about being in person? What do we want to keep during the pandemic, the silver linings that have come out of COVID time. And then we discussed that above the line, below the line activity, which you can utilize for your own life, as a way to take stock of what's important to you, what you want to drop off in the coming year. And you can also use that activity in regards to your support group. What's important to keep in your support group? What do you want to add? What can you let go of? All those kinds of things. So today we're going to be talking about the path to wellness. So there's another model from the National Wellness Institute. It's a multi-dimensional health wheel. I really love this. And this is what you might have seen in some of your printed materials. And we're going to be talking about conceptualizing the path forward. How can we better understand the ways in which our group members can be healthier and enjoy a higher quality of life? And we're going to talk about wellness just as a topic. There are many definitions, and so we'll kind of get to the bottom of that, and then what our roles are as support group leaders in helping to cultivate wellness for our group members. We will have hopefully some partners join us today for the roundtable. We'll have new discussion topics. We'll talk about other wellness tools that you can utilize for yourselves and your support group members as well, and then learning the importance of play and creating more dynamic and engaging meetings moving forward. Okay, how are we doing? Is everyone doing okay? Can you give me a thermometer? Yeah, all right. Excellent. Here we go. Let's move forward. So I'm going to start off here with a cute little cartoon. So the one size fits all store, even though there's a sale, maybe it's not really going to work, huh? So I like this cartoon as an analogy for the experience of someone living with a movement disorder, right? So we, call Parkinson's a snowflake disease. Or if you've met one person with Parkinson's, you've only met one person with Parkinson's. You can't make any assumptions. Everyone has such a different experience. So, I think that this really relates to the experience of someone with a movement disorder. I also think it can be compared to the application of wellness strategies for folks, right? Since we're all so unique, each person is going to need something very different, like a unique bundle of strategies, of tactics and approaches that they can utilize to attain the best version of themselves. All right, so that's how I just want to frame looking at wellness as we go through our session today, that it's really going to be about the individual. Okay, so where do we go from here? So what does the pathway to wellness even look like? Where does it begin? And as we've discussed already, our support groups are made up of many different kinds of people. So we've got people living with the disease, we have care partners, family members, people who are older, people who are younger, further along in their diagnosis and physical abilities, ethnic backgrounds, et cetera, et cetera. And I know some of you have a little bit more cohesive or specific groups, like maybe you're only dealing with care partners, or maybe you're only dealing with men with Parkinson's or something like that. But it's always good to keep in mind the variety, the diversity that we have in our groups. So how, when we're thinking about wellness, we need to realize that how could we expect everyone to utilize the same wellness strategy, right? So in this case, what I like to say is that one size fits one and not one size fits all, in comparison to that cartoon we just looked at. And that personalization of our wellness strategies is really key. And so this, I like to throw into the mix because it is, I think, a good way to contextualize what we're trying to do with wellness, and what's our goal? Why are we even, like, what is being healthy and well and happy even look like? So I can see many of you, some of you have your videos off, but if you could show me with just your hand, if you've ever heard of the blue zones and the research that's been done. So 2 of you. Okay, so this is interesting work that's being done. This man here, I took a screenshot of a webinar or a YouTube video that I saw of him speaking about his work. So his name's Dan Buettner. There's a book about this. There's a lot of stuff online. So he's working with National Geographic. And so he has founded this organization called the Blue Zones. And so he's basically doing research on people all over the world, looking for who are the healthiest people, who are the people aging best, and people who are considered to be happy in life. And so they have identified, and it's really hard to see here on this map, this world map, they've identified 5 different locations in the world where we can learn really substantial, important life lessons from these people who are considered to be living the happiest, healthiest, longest lives. And those locations, I'll read them out to you since the type is so small. Loma Linda, California, Nicoya, Costa Rica, Sardinia, Italy, Ikaria, Greece, and Okinawa, Japan. So all over the world. And it's just really interesting that they've whittled it down to these places. So basically this guy, Dan here, he has created this model of the tenets, basically, of why these people are happy and healthy. And I just want to show you here at the very top, the word purpose. So having a purpose in life is like the most important thing for being happy and healthy. And there are also examples here of living a healthy lifestyle. So that includes eating well and moving well, moving naturally, and living in a healthy environment, which is hard to see, but it's part of this community here. What I want to underscore for us today is this circle right here, right tribe. What does that remind you of as far as the work that we are doing together? Does anyone want to unmute? Yeah, Roger.
That's what a support group is. It really is. It is a tribe.
Absolutely. So looking across the world, who are the most happy, healthy people? People who have the right tribe, who have the right support system. People are, there for them, and people who are active, engaged. I'm looking at the small print around that right tribe. So that's how I just wanted to emphasize how important the work that you do is. Okay. So you're providing this tribe for folks in your community. So thank you for that. All right. So wellness as a concept, what does wellness even mean? It's thrown around a lot, this idea. And so many people have different concepts of what this means. And I want to give you a definition just to start off with today. So there's a Global Wellness Institute as well, and it defines wellness as the active pursuit of activities, choices, and lifestyles that lead to a state of holistic health. Okay, so some of the words that I want to double click on is this active and dynamic aspect. So wellness doesn't happen by just hanging out and sitting back. Like, you have to pursue it actively. Balance is important. It really needs to be personalized. It's positive and proactive. And then I love this word holistic. Yeah. So you have to think of all different aspects of a human being, and all of those aspects need to be supported and nurtured, right, for a whole healthy person. And so a brief history that covers 5,000 years. So I like to think of wellness as being different than like treating illness, right? So, since the beginning of time, if people had health issues, they would be treated, et cetera, et cetera. But when you think about the idea of being proactive to prevent future illness, doing my research, it's like Ayurvedic medicine, in the Indian traditions, and Chinese medicine. So that is literally 5,000 years or more old. So the concept of wellness goes back a really, really long time, even though like in our Western society, we don't, it came to the forefront more in like the 1970s and 80s with the gyms and the diets and the this and the that. So it's gone through a very long history, and it's really fun and exciting to read about it and see how things have progressed through the centuries. But what's great is that we have so many more resources, so much more information that we can utilize to help ourselves and to help one another with this concept of wellness. And that's just what we're going to focus in on today. So, and speaking of the Global Wellness Institute, they have this fun little infographic here that I think really demonstrates what we're going for. So it's a way, this health continuum here, going from the medical paradigm, and then this continuum goes to the right here. This is where we want to be, is this wellness paradigm as opposed to the medical. And so it's a way to understand wellness, and it extends from illness to be like optimal well-being, right? So instead of engaging in just the medical paradigm, which is only just trying to feel better or correcting things, it's compartmentalized. Treating and curing illness, what we want to do is go over to this side, and we want to thrive, not just feel better, right? We want to maintain and improve our health, not only just think about curing illness. Preventative, proactive, right? Holistic, not compartmentalized, having that an individual responsibility. So you're not relying on people outside of you to make you better. You can make yourself better, right? With the proper resources and support, and just integrating it into all aspects of our lives. Okay, so this is just, again, another way we can start to think about wellness for ourselves and for our group members. Okay, so we have arrived at the model that I want to really discuss and share with you today. I really liked this. When I was doing research on wellness, I found that there are many, many models out there. And this particular model from the National Wellness Institute, it has 6 dimensions to it, but I have found other models that had as few as 5 or as many as 9. And so it just really depends on how you want to break things down as far as your life. And, like this model, for instance, doesn't have a separate dimension for financial wellness, for instance, right? That can be incorporated into maybe, occupational or intellect, there are many ways that you can organize the dimensions of the self. But I just really liked this one, and I'm always a fan of not having to reinvent the wheel. So I just also would say that the National Wellness Institute is something you should look into. They have a lot of free resources other than this that you can utilize for yourselves and for your groups. And all you have to do is just sign up for their mailing list, and then they'll give you access basically to a bunch of resources and PDFs and things like that. Okay. So let's talk about each of these dimensions within this wheel. We're going to go one by one and talk about this. So occupational, that can be a tricky word for some of us, especially if people are maybe retired or, they just don't think about the word occupational and how it might relate to them. So instead,
hands out.
I have, there we go. I have put this word purpose in there instead. And remember on the blue zones, how important purpose was at the very top. So I think we can interchangeably, utilize or use each of these words in the same way. So with purpose, People can, depending on what stages of their lives they're in, they can be doing work, but it could be volunteer work, right? And that could be considered part of their occupation or part of their purpose, what they're doing, how they're spending their time, the activities they're choosing to be a part of. It can be full-time or part-time. What's important is the alignment of what people choose to do with their time with their personal purpose. And so sometimes those things aren't necessarily aligned. And if you can bring those things together, then you're spending your time fulfilling yourself, right? Even if it's considered work or volunteer work, so on and so forth. And what we hope too is that purpose will be self-inspiring, inspiring for others, and it just feels like a really great fit, right? Okay, so this is one aspect of being human and being well. Yes, let's move forward to the physical dimension. And as we know, with movement disorders, with Parkinson's, this is really huge. This is a really big part of wellness for us, right? So maintaining a healthy diet, making sure people have the right resources and understanding of how they should be eating to make themselves as healthy as possible. Mediterranean diet, I hear a lot for folks. Does anyone here follow any particular diet that might have a name to it, or do you just piecemeal put things together here and there for yourselves? Yes, Lynn.
I follow a modified ketogenic diet, and I do intermittent fasting, and I eat organic.
Okay, and how did
no red meat?
You don't eat meat?
Red meat.
Red meat. Okay. And how did you come to that conclusion to do those things? Was it just trial and error and you felt better?
My research, I did some research into it.
Research. Interesting. Okay. Very cool. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else have anything special that they do or that they know about that people do, people follow as far as diet?
I actually am a piecemeal dieter, I have to admit.
Piecemeal? I think I am too, Joe. Day to day it changes.
Chocolate way too much.
You said you eat chocolate?
I love chocolate way too much to be a good dieter with it.
Is it dark chocolate at least? Low
Yes.
sugar? Okay. See,
It is dark chocolate. I don't care about the sugar amount.
Yes. Well, I think a little bit of dark chocolate's good for us anyway. That's what I think. Diet is important. Okay. The next bullet, as we know, is really important for us, participating in regular exercise. And does anyone have a philosophy on what's the best exercise? Ana Maria.
Whatever you will continue to do.
Right. Mary, yes. Is that what you're going to say, Ana Maria? Yes. How about you, Dave?
Hi. I practice yoga Qigong
Qigong,
to make the energy flow.
Wonderful.
Qigong.
It's
And
beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. I've done some Tai Chi myself, not Qigong, but what a wonderful practice. And that's something you can do for the rest of your life and never really understand it completely. You're always a student, no matter how long you've been studying. That's really awesome. Dave, I think I may have seen your hand.
I was just going to say what other people have said, just something, as long as you're moving in consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Moderation is the key to success, as they say, and you do it in moderation and with consistency.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so diet, exercise, seeking proper medical care, and with that, educating yourself on holistic practices. So having a well-rounded regimen, right? And so, being open to Eastern medicine, Western medicine, and coming up with a structure that makes sense for you. So yes, physical is very important for us with movement disorders here. Social. So the social dimension of being a human being, what does that mean? It's contributing to community in some ways, which we're already doing, right? With our right tribe, with our support groups. So contributing to community is key, and being a part of that. Enhancing personal relationships, right? So we're always wanting to better ourselves in the ways in which we relate to other people and make those deeper connections. And so, what are the steps that each of us is taking to accomplish that? Excuse me. Initiating better communication on that same line. So I think we can always learn and do better at how we communicate, whether it be in person, verbally, through text. So just learning strategies to communicate and be our authentic selves while being conscious and aware of others. And then this one, it might seem a little bit off, to the side here, but in it being like the social dimension, but preserving the natural environment. I think that's an important one to keep in the mix. It's to me, it's a little hard to, put it under that category of social, but the natural environment, how do we take care of the earth, take care of our home, and make sure that we're being conscientious in all of our activities and behaviors. Okay. Jumping up here to intellectual. So the intellectual side of being well. So are we working on expanding our knowledge and our skills? Yeah. Yesterday, we talked about those of you who have started new hobbies during COVID, right? And so we are learning new skills, and I think it was Roger who was saying, I don't even quite understand what he was saying about the racing and the, it seems very complex, but it seems like, you have to really know what you're talking about and doing. And there's, it seems very specific. And so you're having to expand your mind and learn new things. And as we know, that's really important for all of us, especially as we all get older. So that's wonderful. Sharing your gifts with others. So things that you might already be good at, your gifts, what is it that you can contribute and share with others? Like Anna Maria, maybe she could teach a class or offer a little class to her support group, something like that in her Qigong. Pursuing personal interests, that's similar to hobbies. And then challenging yourself with new endeavors. So yes, just little, different perspectives on similar things, but really keeping that mind active and growing and not stagnant. Okay, moving to the spiritual side. And as we know, spirituality can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And so to keep that openness and, providing space for people as they might have their very different approaches to spirituality is important. It can be religion. It can be something very different, connection to nature, that sort of thing. But what we have found in really trying to understand how life can be meaningful, this really seems to be a core component of developing like a grander appreciation for life. And how is it that we all fit into the scheme of things? Like, what is our, where do we belong? and why do we matter, and why is it important that we're here and part of something bigger than ourselves. So this is something that I'd like to ask you in your groups. People might shy away from this sort of thing because perhaps there's so many differences, and how would you approach talking about spirituality with your groups? I'm curious to ask you. Was that Joe?
I belong to a Parkinson's chorus, and it was very controversial when we started picking out our Christmas songs, because some people in the chorus did not want us to have any sort of religious mention in our Christmas songs or our Hanukkah songs or our Kwanzaa songs. And that was just interesting. It seems that that's one thing that people tend to shy very far away from. And I think it's kind of unfortunate.
That's interesting. Was it discussed in your group to maybe offer several different kinds of songs, from Kwanzaa to Hanukkah to Christmas, and so it's all inclusive as opposed to exclude everybody?
Yeah, I mean, it was not really discussed. I mean, we have a choral director who is also the minister at the church, where he gives us the ability to meet and do our practices and everything. But at the same time, it was surprising to me that people wanted to. I can understand wanting to have a mix, but they were saying, why are we singing any religious-based Christmas carols? And I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's interesting.
What happened?
What happened?
They actually have to stay tuned, because that came up about, we meet every Monday for practice, and that was at the last Monday session. This Monday session, I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting to see.
Wow. So they want all secular music, just no mention of any sort of religion.
Exactly. And like I said, I'm actually a very big religious person myself, but I'm not to hoist it on somebody. But I also think that a lot of this music is beautiful in its own right, and has a place, for people that are just practicing singing.
Absolutely. And
How many times can you sing when grandma got run over by a reindeer? I mean, come on.
We do that one too. We do that
Yes,
one.
I'm sure, but all the rest of them would have to be like that if you eliminate all the, better songs.
Yep, agree.
Yeah. You could think of it too as just these songs are rooted from deep tradition, right? And so that's in music and singing, and that is part and parcel. It's all part of religious ceremony and celebration and all of that. And so if it can be, people could pull away from that and not get too caught up in the nitty gritty of the religious aspects and just enjoy the music. It's interesting. It's a funny time we're in, and I'm curious just to hear how all of you deal with this. And does anyone broach the idea of meditation, which can be a little bit more secular? That's so connecting for people. Karen, I know that why don't you share with people your experience with meditation?
So we talked about meditation for our group, and ultimately people approached me and asked me if I would lead a meditation group. I taught meditation in the Oregon State prison system before I retired to New Mexico. And so we did that meditation series for quite some time. I did end it last spring, but I probably will start it up again. And we did do it over Zoom as well. So people think you can't do that, but you can, and still have that lovely connection.
That's lovely. And your particular approach, Karen, to meditation, is it from a certain lineage, tradition? Like how do you approach
Well,
that?
originally, it started as Buddhist,
Mhm.
and that was the group that I went into the meditation or into the prison with, as what was for Buddhist meditation. However, I now use just more of a kind of open to other ways. I always tell people you can't do meditation wrong. So it's just sitting and breathing. It's real simple.
Mhm. And
There's no-
effective.
yeah, it's very effective. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks for that. Does anyone else have any ideas about how to incorporate spirituality? And we're going to be delving into these a little bit more in our breakout rooms, but this tends to be one of the harder ones that people struggle with.
Well,
Yes,
if your meeting is sponsored by a church, that makes it a little bit easier. You know, if you have it in the church, it might be just for members of that congregation, I guess.
Right.
That's one avenue to pursue.
Right. Yes, hopefully, not hopefully, I guess it just depends on the situation of the group, but that it could be open, to anyone and not just for a particular congregation, but maybe that is effective for some, and that they have a shared fundamental belief system, and that they know and understand where everyone's coming from. They don't have to struggle with what Joe is talking about and not coming to consensus on things. Kim, I think I saw your hand.
Yes, we have two groups, and one of them is specifically faith-based, and it is at a church. We have another one at a church, but it's just the church being nice enough to let us use the facility.
Right.
And is not faith-based. So both of them, in the little small print, the one that is faith-based, it actually says, so people know, when they come, we're going to pray or we're going to do whatever,
Okay.
that is comfortable. And the other one, people thought at first, because it was housed in a church, it was faith-based, but it was not. They were just nice enough to let us use their building.
I see. And I can see the importance of really being specific and letting people know. And if you need to include that in your promotional materials or whatever it might be, just so that people are clear and they know what to expect. That's great. Good. Okay. Let's see, I didn't go. Yes. So searching for meaning and purpose, aligning actions with values. Yeah. Our value system, making sure that we're behaving in ways in which we believe, and attaining a larger worldview. And I also wanted just to throw in there the idea of communing with nature. That can be a very spiritual experience. And how is it that you could bring that into your support group, or have your support group go out into nature and do something special? And last but not least, the emotional dimension of being well. So that would include developing greater self-awareness, right? And to me, that relates a lot back to here. Self-awareness and better communication. So yeah, that could also relate to spirituality and meditation and understanding, who we are, where we're headed, how we change from day to day. We mentioned the fear, learning, growth model, and being self-aware of where we stand on that continuum, on that spectrum on a day-to-day basis. And so developing self-awareness is a huge component of emotional well-being. The ability to manage feelings and stress and maintaining satisfying relationships. So with these, wanted to ask you how you might approach these subjects within your support group. Managing feelings and stress, how to have better relationships, between care partners and people living with movement disorders or other family members, friends? Any ideas there? Has anyone broached that? Ana Maria? You need to unmute. There we go.
I would like to share Ray and I. Sorry, it's my turn.
Good timing.
We made a very short presentation to Ray's group about the relationship between person with Parkinson's PD and care partner, and based on our experience and how our relationship has changed a lot of years. And I think that it might help the people who attended in the sense that they could ask themselves what was similar or different in their uniqueness experience, because I agree that living with Parkinson is a unique singular experience. So nobody's going to give you the recipe, not at all. You have to find your own path, your way to living as best as possible. But what we share is that something like the simple rules we have, like we support each other. Raymond supports me and I support him, for example. It's not like I'm the caregiver, because to be honest, I don't have always the time, the skill, the strength, and I feel sometimes I don't know what to do, or I feel anger. So we are in this together. I think it's a very important topic. The communication between the person with Parkinson and his or her loved one or partner or friend, whoever is in the daily life.
Right. So you and Ray, you served as almost a model, and you talked about your
not really a model, no, because we are not going to give them anybody any recipe. We just wanted to share how we are aware how it's changing our relation, and how we have to be very careful to how is it changing, asking ourselves what's happening, what's functioning in our relation or not. So our differences, our tensions can be good because they keep us moving.
Right, looking at it as a positive, right? Yeah, thank you for that. And it takes a lot of courage and vulnerability to be able to do that with others. And it's very real, very authentic. So I applaud you for that. And I'm sure it's very insightful, even just to hear about other people's experiences. And then it's a cause to ask your own questions about your own relationship and how you can continue to connect and improve and all of these things as we move through life and things change on a daily basis. So that's really wonderful. I see Angela has her little hand up.
Yeah, Shannon, I just wanted to comment about that some of these issues, when you're a volunteer-led support group, I think sometimes Anna Maria's dog has a lot to say.
I just muted you, Anna Maria. Okay. I just did it.
He has a lot to say, which is good. I was just going to say that sometimes these harder emotional type issues in groups that I've been in, we've actually encouraged a mental health professional to come to the group and lead sessions when it's because I think as a volunteer, even though I'm in the community, some of these issues can be very challenging to cope with as a volunteer-led group. So I've used the resources of like a social worker or a psychologist to come and speak to the group to kind of spark some of these discussions, because I haven't felt confident enough myself to actually lead those because I don't have the mental health background.
That's perfect. That's what I was hoping that I would draw out is bringing somebody in to help, counselors, therapists. Yes, Karen.
Yes, we brought in shortly after COVID came, we brought in a grief counselor. So folks could really deal with the grief that they were going through, the losses from COVID and not being together and all of that. So it was very helpful.
Excellent. Yes, grief counselors are wonderful too. There's so much loss that's happening right now for so many people. And just to give people skills and resources, tools to cope is really important right now. Thank you. Thanks all for that. And I see Joe's hand is up.
Yeah, how did you get a hold of these counselors? I would really love to incorporate that type of thing in my meetings, but I've never been able to get a hold of somebody.
Someone in your community in Massachusetts, Joe?
Well, yeah, that'd be ideal. But I mean, if I can get somebody from outside of Massachusetts with Zoom, what's the diff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's an interesting point. And Karen, you can maybe speak. I think you're talking about Eileen.
Yeah, we have someone in our community who would attend our meetings actually because her sister-in-law has Parkinson's. So I reached out to her and she is a grief counselor. So I reached out to her and had her lead the session on grief. And it was a very profound session for everyone. But I have in the past looked to the local hospitals and asked them sometimes too for references of someone that they might know. And then we have here in Santa Fe, we have the Santa Fe Healthcare Network that I'm a member of. And a lot of that provides me with the opportunity to interact with healthcare professionals of various kinds.
Yes, utilizing those resources in your community are important. And just pragmatically, I'm wondering if a lot of therapists, counselors are more apt to participate in something local, thinking that they might make connections and have possible clients afterward, not to be pessimistic about it, but they might be more willing to volunteer their time for a 1 hour or 45-minute talk if they know that they're going to make connections in the community and continue on with that instead of it being a one and done. So it's something to think about when we have practitioners come in. Yes, I see Steve.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, I heard a webinar on mood that was given by a psychologist, Dr. Roseanne Dopkin. I suggest if anyone's interested, they try to get a copy of that webinar.
Steve, can you repeat which webinar it is, where that was
It's
broadcast?
on mood, and it's presented by Dr. Roseanne Dopkin, Dobkin.
Okay, maybe that's something we can look up and see if we can find a link for that. Thank you. Thanks for that. And then I noticed in the chat, I think Angela wrote some things. Joe, we're fortunate enough to have some people who either have Parkinson's, who have a loved one with Parkinson's, who give their time, social workers and counselors that they utilize, PD care partners who are also counselors. So those crossover folks who, because they're already sympathetic and empathetic to movement disorders and Parkinson's, that they're very welcome to, or willing to share and offer resources. Good point. Looks like Rachel put a link in the chat for what Steve was talking about? Great. Yes. So that's the Davis-Finney mood and anxiety and Parkinson's. Wonderful. Thanks for that. Good, good. Okay. Oh, we've got a couple of people raised their hands. Let's do Kim first, and then we'll do Helena.
Kind of on this subject, the one thing I noticed is we had a psychologist come on Zoom, but we had not listened to her spiel before we had her come. And that's something, a lesson learned for us particularly, is that she was more of drumming up business than she was trying to help the 30 people that were sitting in the room staring at their computers. So I think it's important to maybe sit in on one of theirs before you have them come to your group.
Word to the wise.
Like apologizing afterwards for the sales pitch.
Ah, yes. Ooh, that is a good one. So yeah, sitting in on another talk of theirs, or having a very explicit conversation and saying, this is what the expectations are on our end. This is not supposed to be a sales pitch. You're welcome to, say what you do and where you work or whatever it is, but it's just very specific on the intention of the presentation. Thanks for reminding us of that. That's good, Kim. Helena.
Sorry, the dogs decided to bark at this moment. I guess whenever I speak, they want to speak as well.
Yes.
I actually had the opposite problem. I am a social worker, and I sort of like I'm in a co-leader because the leader at the time went to a Parkinson ping pong meeting. There's a group we have here. It's called Ping Pong Parkinson's, and I was there playing ping pong. And in the conversation, the leader found out I was a social worker and then convinced me to come help her out with her group. And that's how I ended up with the group. So it's interesting because that's how they found it. They went out and then sought out people, and like me, for example. And that's how we got our social worker running our group.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for telling us that experience. It's good to hear it from the other side, right?
It's kind of it's strange because when I first started with Parkinson's, the doctor told me not to join a support group. Yeah, I know. I saw the face there, Kim's face. And so I started becoming afraid of being in a support group. So now then this person comes to me and asks me to help with a group, to come and see it and maybe come from time to time. And I ended up, this is not bad. Why did he tell me that? Because this is actually, I wish I'd known about this before. Because
exactly.
It's so hard to find people in the community that have Parkinson's, because everybody's isolated.
Right.
And it's being in a support group is helpful to know other people who have Parkinson's and develop your skills as a person with Parkinson's.
Absolutely.
Regardless of what you do.
Right. And look at us, we're all here, because we believe in what support groups do and how important it is for folks to have that local community support. And it pains my heart to hear that doctors, for whatever reason, are still sometimes not on board with support groups. And
well, I could understand how he felt, because the people in the group that I've been in have had, they're like, some of them are at their end stages. Like this year alone, we lost 3 people. And it's I think he didn't want me to get scared of my future. But little did he know I knew about my future anyway. But
right. And it is frustrating to hear that people are making that decision for you, and that yes, they're pushing you in a direction of more of isolation as opposed to community. And
it didn't work. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Because I went looking for people, because I was with Parkinson's, person with Parkinson's, I don't know anybody out there that has Parkinson's. So I heard about this ping pong group. So I went going there so I could meet people with Parkinson's.
Right.
And that was a support group in its own
Got it.
right.
Really important. Thanks for sharing that, Helena. I think Lynn had her hand up, maybe for one last comment before we head into our roundtable.
Well, I just wanted to share that we had a sexologist and talk about intimacy and sexuality named Sheila Silver. And she spoke for the Davis Finney Foundation. I had her speak to our group. I had more Zoom members come online than ever before. I mean, I think my Zoom link almost crashed. I mean, I had like, I don't know, I had like 55, 60 people come on. And so it was a very popular topic.
Wow, and surprising, right?
About couple intimacy, and it was very nice. It was very, very well done.
How did it go? Were people open and like was there question answer session, or was it more
it was you know,
tactics?
she spoke about, she gave tips of, you know, how to, you know, communication and intimacy, that, you know, as far as it can come in many different ways, you know, holding hands, or, you know, staying in touch with one another. I mean, she handled it very well. And,
Right.
And she left about 20 minutes. We typically meet for 1 hour, and she left about 20 minutes for questions and answers, which is really nice. And I feel like that area of relationships is really something dramatically important, especially somebody younger with Parkinson's. And, you know, that kind of is like a hidden stressor for a lot of people with Parkinson's, is into, you know, their relationships with their partners.
Absolutely. Curious on this slide here, the 6 dimensions that we've been talking about, where you think that might go, having a sexologist come talk.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I feel that, you know, that would probably go under social and emotional, right?
Yeah. And that goes to show how interconnected these dimensions are. And so sometimes you can't categorize topics just under one dimension. So just to keep in mind that you can give attention to more than one at a time when you have a particular speaker come or a particular discussion topic brought up in your group. But the idea is that we do want to cover all of these separate aspects of being a well person. So I see that we do have a couple of guests who've joined us, Claire Judkins, and we've got Meg. I have one more slide to share with the group before we head into our roundtable discussion. But thank you for being here. Appreciate you coming. So we are talking about the multi-dimensional model of health, of wellness, and how all 6 of these dimensions of being a human is very important, and that we need to look at folks as a whole. And so as we go into our roundtable discussion, I'd like us to keep these questions, these things in mind. So 3 important questions in regards to applying wellness strategies to your support group. So how can our support group help people live their lives more fully? Can we better recognize and address the whole person by focusing on all 6 dimensions of wellness? Can we help our members to affirm and activate their positive qualities and strengths while supporting their ever-changing needs? And then again, just as we demonstrated with Lynn's example, emphasizing the interconnectedness of the dimensions and how they contribute to overall health and well-being. Okay, so we are going to now welcome Claire and Meg, and we're going to head into our roundtable discussion. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can all see each other's faces. Let's see here. Okay. So Claire and Meg, welcome. This is our National In Sync workshop. We have folks from all over the country joining us, and we have someone from Peru, Ana Maria, as well. And this is our second roundtable. We had one last night. This is a chance for us to go into breakout rooms and dig a little deeper into some questions and then come back and share with the whole group. So we're happy to have you here. We think it's really important at PMD Alliance that we can connect our industry partners, the treatments and devices and medications available, and connect those folks with the support group leaders so that they can then create relationships. And if there's information sharing or presentations that can be offered to groups, then we want to help facilitate that. So what I'm going to do at the end of the workshop is send your contact information, Claire and Meg, to everyone in the group, and they can be in touch with you if they'd like to have more information or if they're interested in any sort of presentation to their groups. So why don't we take a couple of minutes and hear from Claire, and she's here from Acadia Pharmaceuticals. So if you just want to say hi and let us know where you're calling in from, be happy to meet you.
Great. Hello, thanks for having me. My name is Claire Judkins. I am part of our advocacy and industry relations team at Acadia. So we do have a dedicated department at Acadia specifically for advocacy. I cover the East and Renetta Mosley covers the West. So we just are focused on really supporting our advocacy partners in a more in a way that's not focused necessarily all the time on commercial. We are a part of corporate affairs, so we are interested in really supporting our partners around the country. And of course, I work for Acadia Pharmaceuticals, and we have a product, pimavanserin or Nuplazid, for those that are experiencing hallucinations and delusions with Parkinson's that they might want to get treated. So I'll just stop there. So thank you, everybody. And I'm glad to be a part of InSync. And I work a lot in the Florida area. I'm on the East, and I advocate for so many of the programs that PMD Alliance does, because even with other support groups and stuff around, and they're looking for additional resources, I say, reach out to PMDA. You guys have so many great workshops that fill unmet needs.
Oh, thank you so much, Claire, for that. And I appreciate you coming today and being a part of our roundtable. So welcome. Okay, Meg, I don't see your video on. I'm not sure if you're able to say hello to us. Looks like you just unmuted.
I can.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Meg.
I'm trying to put my video on. I have to apologize in advance. This is our annual family weekend where we go up to northern Arizona. And wait, let's see. Can you see me?
Yes. No? Gotcha. Okay. We see
I'm actually sitting.
Sunglasses.
I am sitting in the forest here at Arizona in Williams, Arizona. Like I said, this is my family's annual little trek for the weekend. We go take the grandchildren to something called the North Pole Experience, and then we come to Arizona, which is a real fun place. So I do apologize, but I'll introduce myself. My name is Meg Lambert. I am a nurse, and I work with Medtronic Corporation in the DBS field. My title is Senior Market Development Manager for DBS. And what that means is it's my job to go out and educate not only physicians, but primarily patients and their families and caregivers about DBS as a possible therapy for the treatment of Parkinson's, essential tremor, and dystonia. And I just started with Medtronic a couple of months ago. And prior to that, I was the DBS nurse for about 10 years in one of the largest DBS implanting centers in America. So from a nurse's perspective, I have dealt with over 1,000 patients who have Parkinson's, essential tremor, and dystonia, trying to help navigate them through the many barriers to care for deep brain stimulation surgery. With PMD Alliance, we have found that with our partnership, we are able to get the word out to many, many different consumers and their families about the possibility of this therapy for their movement disorder. And I want to continue doing that and working with support groups the best way that I can. We have several talks that we can provide, one of which, and I was just asked to do it by the PMD Alliance for a big support group in Southern California. It's about the hospitalized Parkinson's patient, because there's a little difficulty sometimes when patients are admitted to the hospital. And we have come up with some strategies to help patients advocate for themselves when they or their family member is in the hospital. So I have prepared to talk about that, as well as deep brain stimulation, which go hand in hand because, you know, it's a surgical treatment and patients spend a night or two in the hospital. Anyway, that's enough about me, and I'm so happy to be here. And again, I apologize for the circumstances, but I couldn't miss this. Oh, and by the way,
yes,
as a family member, I have to throw out there, my dad had Parkinson's. So from a family member perspective, I know what it's all about. So thanks for having me today.
thanks, Meg. Appreciate you joining even on your family weekend. That's dedication for you. And what an important talk you've put together about people who are hospitalized and the needs and the challenges that they face. So wow, thank you for that. Hopefully, Meg, you'll be able to participate in the roundtable. So we'll see how you can manage that. Okay, everyone, I am going to share my screen again, so we can talk about what the discussion will be in our groups. So here we go. So we are going to riff on our multi-dimensional health wheel, wellness wheel. In our groups, we're going to have 6 groups, 1 group for each dimension. Okay, and so Kelly, she's already working on those breakout rooms in the background, and she's going to help us know who is in what group and what you're going to be talking about in just a moment. But I'm going to put this in the chat as well. So we're going to be generating ideas for your particular breakout rooms given dimension. So what are potential discussion topics, guest speakers, or other resources that you could explore during your meetings to help your members live their lives more fully in that particular dimension? Okay, so it's a big brainstorming session. I'm going to put this in the chat so that you know what the question is. There you go. And I want to
meetings, what's SG?
SG is support group meetings. I ran out of space, so I had to shorten it to SG. And I also use the acronym SGL for support group leader a lot, just because it can take up a lot of space on a page. So I want to point out that the printed materials that you might or hopefully have in front of you, there is a list in there from it's a little excerpt from our reference guide. I alluded to it yesterday. It's a list of speaker topics and discussion topics, and you can use that as a reference as you do your brainstorming session, just to kind of get the wheels turning. And there are also deeper breakdowns of each of the 6 dimensions on the reference sheets from National Wellness Institute on that printout. So if you needed just a little bit more in-depth information, you can refer to those. So
Shannon, I will
yes.
I will tell you that the chat doesn't carry over when we go into the breakouts. So the pasting of the topic that we're discussing doesn't follow us when we go into the breakout.
Oh, that's interesting. It used to.
I just wanted to let you know. It wasn't there last night. So.
It wasn't. Oh, interesting. Check again for me today and let me know when you come back. I had thought that if I do it before you go, it's there. And then anything you might chat to each other in your room does not transfer back to the main room. But if things have changed, then that would be helpful for me to know. Good old Zoom in their updates. Okay, so hopefully you're going to assign a new leader for your new little group today. So someone who can take notes and report back to the main room once we have our sharebacks. We'll do maybe about 15, 20 minutes again in the room. Plenty of time for discussion, hopefully, although it does go by very quickly, I hear. And I think that's good. I'm going to stop my share now and check my chat. Okay. Got it. All right, Miss Kelly, I think you're going to be able to help us figure out who's who and who's talking about what.
Yes, indeed. I think the breakout rooms are situated. So here's what we've got. We've got the 6 rooms. So in room 1, we have Joe, Larry, Lynn, and Mary. And you're going to be covering the purpose/occupational dimension. And then in room 2, we have Elizabeth, Helena, Meg, and Roger, and we'll have you do the physical dimension. Room 3, we have Cynthia, Diane, and Myra, and you will be doing social. And then in room 4, we have Bonnie, Claire, Karen, and Steve, and you will be covering intellectual. Room 5, we have Anna Maria, Angela, Dave, and Kim, and you've got spiritual. And then last but not least, room 6, we have Camille, Judith, Mary, and Jim, and you will be covering the emotional dimension.
Great. Good job, Kelly. Thank you for doing that. Is everyone pretty clear on what we're doing? And you have your dimension figured out, and you can set off on a brainstorming session. I'll give you, I don't know, maybe 18 minutes or so to work on that with each other. And looking forward to coming back and hearing what you have come up with, and we'll take notes for the group. All right, everyone. Let's go ahead and head over to our breakout rooms, and we will see you on the other side.
My group decided not to come back.
Oh, no.
You're having such a good time. Oh, that's what I hear. I think I miss the party all the time because I'm not in one of the breakout rooms.
You're taking a breath.
That's true. That's true. Rachel, Kelly, and I, we have our own little party that we have. Okay, everybody. Looks like we're back, and we'll follow the same procedure that we did yesterday. And so we will go room by room and have each group report back, and we'll take notes. So starting with room number 1 was Joe, Larry, Lynn, and Mary, please.
Yes. Well, I'm good. I'm unmuted. Okay. Yes. We talked about something that was an epiphany for me, because that the support group leaders should find ways to delegate, because it actually makes the group stronger. And I have to admit that I'm delinquent in that area, in terms of delegating, and it really needs to be something that helps a lot. So we have what we could call collaborative leadership, where the people that were interested in a topic might run it down, as opposed to the support group leader running it down. We also talked about the fact that we want to make sure that we create the environment as our purposes, where people can cut to the chase. We don't have to mince words or something like that. The one that came up was, I mentioned one time, a long time ago in my support group, we had this discussion and somebody mentioned constipation, and we said, all right, who here suffers from constipation? We put their hands up. And it resulted in a kind of an understanding of each other where our comfort zone was with the rest of the people in the room. And we really talked a lot about the idea of getting the community to be multidimensional based upon what the people in the community needed, but not having the support group leader, again, have to do all those things, but more like, well, let's say the community decided they want to do a lot of bicycling or something like that. Form a group of people that were doing bicycling, or maybe they wanted to walk or something in that respect. And the idea basically was, asking the people, what they were after, and, maybe giving them a little shove in the direction, but not being the person who pulls them in the direction, shall we say. I'm going to ask the other people in the group if I forgot something, Lynn especially, and Larry. And we're sorry we had a lot of audio problems with Mary's connection, which was a shame because we finally got to it, and she had a lot of good stuff to say, but we were running out of time. But if you guys have anything else that you'd like to add that I missed, that'd be great.
Thanks, Joe. And Mary, I don't know if you know this tip. If you have limited bandwidth and your audio is cutting out, you can turn your video off, and then your voice a lot of times comes through more clearly. And so that's a little hack that you're able to work with. And so we can't see your face, unfortunately, but at least we can get hopefully more of a continuous stream of your voice. So you're welcome to share now if you'd like, or if anyone else, who was it, Lynn and Larry, anything to add to what Joe already said, which was great. Larry said thumbs up. So yeah, the collaboration idea, delegating, co-leadership, having more of a team feel, definitely get more buy-in when people are involved on that level. And so it's that commitment, that feeling of being part of a community and engaging. It's a different level of showing up, isn't it? And I really love that idea of asking your group members, what is it that they want to hear about and talk about within these 6 dimensions? So that's a perfect place to start, and understanding what are the needs and interests of the people in front of you, right? Instead of feeling like it always has to come from the leader.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I really heard Joe saying. So really good stuff there. Great. Anything from Mary? Did you want to add now that?
Can you hear me?
Can hear you right now.
Perfect. No, I think one of the things that we faced, one of the traumas that we faced was the pandemic and Zoom itself. And not that I don't agree with Zoom, because I totally do. I have my own account, but I started a meeting in the park, and people seem to love that. That was pretty much during up until this month, because this month is pretty cold. But when you can meet outside and kind of spread out, distance and all that stuff, they really loved the in-person meetings much more than the Zoom.
Interesting. And if you're meeting outdoors, was it bring your own chair situation, or how did that work?
Well, I found a place in the park that had a lot of picnic tables, like a group of picnic tables. And so we met there so people could sit on the tables, but then I also invited them to bring their own chairs. So we had kind of this big circle that melded into the picnic tables.
Nice. Okay. And so you were close enough to hear one another.
Oh, yeah.
But distanced enough to feel safe.
Right.
And then having that element of nature and being out, almost like a picnic in the park kind of feel, which is lovely. And you could even bring your own snacks if you wanted, I imagine.
Yeah, we invited people, but they just didn't, but that's okay too. They really enjoyed the in person.
Great. Love that. Thanks for sharing that, Mary. Glad we can hear you too.
Sorry about my mic. It's kind of goes in and out.
Interesting. Okay, got it. Okay. Thank you to Joe and to room number 1. Let's go to the second group, who was Elizabeth, Helena, and Roger, please. Did anyone take the helm?
I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Oh, no problem.
I was there talking and then saw the sign come up, you're on mute. Oh, sorry.
Got it.
So what I wanted to say is, Mary, thank you for that idea about the park. Where I live, there's so many parks near here that maybe we could do it as like visit a park day, and like maybe take the Thursday or Wednesday and then visit a different park every week or month or whatever. I think week. But anyway, thank you so much for that idea. I'll do that in the spring. because I also know that some parks have what do you call the things? Shelters
Gazebo
Yeah.
type.
that are open, gazebo kind of things. And I know of at least 3 parks, just thinking about that without really thinking hard. I know of about 3 parks that we could go be underneath the shelter in case of rain. So if
Right.
rain or shine, you got to be at the park.
I love it.
Be there, be square.
Exactly.
And so we talked about the physical part, and that included exercise and things like that. So I'm stealing Mary's idea about the parks. We also talked about having people come to talk about nutrition, and in the different groups, like maybe having somebody from Rocksteady coming in, or I say coming in, but on Zoom, whatever. There's where I live, there's also ping pong Parkinson's, and dance with the dance group. I don't know if it's still operating because it's like it's kind of far away from me. It's like 20-30 miles away. It's in White Plains, and I'm like north of that. So we talked about resources as far as trying to get people to come in, like getting a nutritionist is hard for me in a sense, but I got the idea from Elizabeth of getting in touch with one of the schools around here, like the university or whatever, because we have NYU, we have Columbia, we have a lot of schools nearby. That there must be somebody who does the nutrition, because oh, I just thought of something. I have a friend who does that.
Light bulb.
Light bulb. I had a light bulb on. Let me write this down. Laura. So what was I gonna say? So basically we talked about that kind of things, and it's just like we basically talked about what's available and coming up with ideas as far as what to talk about. We have to figure out how to get the guest speakers.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Elena, you had mentioned you're north of White Plains, and were you looking for boxing classes or?
No, I'm not looking, because well, there is a Rocksteady group like it's in the next town over, Mount Kisco. Are you in New York?
I'm in Stamford, Connecticut.
Okay, so you're not that far. But there's one in Larchmont.
Right. There's one in White Plains.
White Plains and Mount Kisco. And then on the other side of the river, there's stuff too. But I don't go to the other side of the river. I don't know.
Exactly. It's okay. I just wanted to mention it because I take a course through the White Plains Zoom on boxing and conditioning.
Do you know Roberta?
And it's Tony.
Do you know Roberta?
No.
Well, because his friend Roberta is in Rocksteady, and she runs a support group at Rocksteady, through the Rocksteady group.
Sounds like we can make some more connections between folks, and even in that town of White Plains, it sounds like you would think people would know each other, but
this is a very big like area. And there's things there, but you have to really look for them. Like Rocksteady, I knew about the one in Mount Kisco, and then I knew about the one in White Plains. But I chose Mount Kisco because it's closer. But I know there's other ones in the next county over, Putnam.
Sure. And just on that note, I'm not sure if everyone knows that PMD Alliance created an app for your phone that has exercise and support group options, and it's all done by location. And so you put in, either use your GPS, whatever that system would be, the location, or you put in a zip code, and then it pulls up both in-person classes and virtual classes. It's called PD which is an ampersand, me, PD and me. I don't know if we can put the link to that somewhere in the chat.
I actually downloaded it, but I never finished the download. I downloaded it and then never got back. And so now I have it right here. Today's groups. There's no groups today. Check back tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah. Check back tomorrow. So that is a good resource to have. And just as an aside, the Dance for PD headquarters, if you will, in Brooklyn, where it all began, and David Leventhal, if you know him, who runs that program, they're still offering several free Zoom classes a week. And so that's a resource for all of your members if they're wanting to participate in a really high quality professional program. And then there are many other Dance for Parkinson's programs doing things online. So it may not be necessarily a speaker who would potentially come to a live meeting, but there are ways people can be physical and active in between meetings and enjoy themselves. So that's wonderful. All right, thank you, Helena, in group number 2. Let us move to the third group, Cynthia, Diane, and Myra, please.
Okay, I think I was supposed to share some of our thoughts. We started out by just mainly saying how we were here. And turns out we were all caregivers. Both 2 of us have since lost our spouses. One has a spouse with. So unfortunately, we talked about that for a bit. Regarding social, I wasn't quite sure what we were looking for social on that. We were talking about how to get back to it. And I'm trying to think, was it Diane or Cynthia who talked about wait a minute. Okay, Cynthia mentioned at the Villages, she has a large room. And this was interesting. She is just going to begin a program, to be a support group leader. She has a large room. And of course, the Villages, I would presume there'd be a large population of Parkinson's because of age. And what she's planning to do is just start out the meeting and have everybody at tables, 6 or 8 at a table all around, and start out the meeting with a topic and then let each table talk about the topic on their own. And that was an interesting thought, so that it's not just one person talking the whole time. So that was really interesting that she was going to do that. But everybody was looking at how to get back. When are we going to get back to having meetings again? And I certainly wonder that as well. So hopefully we'll get there sometime soon. Meantime, thank goodness for PMD Alliance and all the organizations with all their Zoom meetings and all that people can watch at home. So we thank you for everything.
Thank you, Myra. I'm glad you could join us today. And that's a good point. The social dimension, just showing up to a meeting, if it's in person, even if it's on Zoom, it's still a social activity in and of itself. And then potentially thinking of ways to expand your social engagement. Can't remember, it might have been Joe who mentioned something about walking groups, or people who are interested in a specific topic or specific activity rather, and then they can get together as small groups on their own. And that doesn't necessarily have to be led by the leader of the group. It can be just whoever is interested in that, they meet up and do their own thing. And but you think about all the different activities and interests people might have. And if it's outdoors, maybe it's more likely because it's safer as we're still in the pandemic. It's harder in the wintertime for those of you on the East Coast and up north. But yeah, thinking about affinity groups. I see that Cynthia has raised her hand.
Here in the Villages, there's a wonderful man with Parkinson's, and he has started a Parkinson's golf group on a 9-hole course. And I don't know any of the guys who have played yet, but what I understand is they're all just really great to each other. And if one of them loses his balance when he's teeing off, they pick him up and say, "Come on, Bob, get up, let's go." They're really good natured about it and don't make them feel like they're lacking in any way.
Nice.
So all sorts of groups are possible.
Yeah.
Wow, that's wonderful to hear and so sweet. That support and just like, come on, you know, there's no explanation needed, you know, it's just hope, you know, hopefully everyone's safe and not hurting themselves, of course.
Right.
But yeah, that's really nice when you don't have to explain yourself, right? Great
be
idea.
yourself.
What'd you say, Myra?
You can be yourself.
You can just be yourself, just be instead of, worry about that.
And they can't hurt themselves too badly falling on grass.
On the grass, right?
Probably less than falling in the house.
True. That is true. And just how enriching that experience is, the camaraderie that can happen out there. And then, I mean, golfing is so hard. It takes a lot of skill and
Do you know
practice.
the acronym Romeo?
I don't.
Retired old men eating out.
Romeos.
Romeos.
Okay. Yeah. Meeting up in a little corner cafe and jabbing for a while. I like that idea.
That's special to the villages? The Romeos?
No, I think they've got retired old men eating out everywhere.
How about the Juliets then?
I haven't heard of them.
We'll have to come up with a word for each of those letters, Jim.
Right.
Who's creative here?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Group number 3, social group. Awesome. Let's move to the 4th group, which is Bonnie, Claire, Karen, and Steve, please.
Hi, can you hear me okay? It's Claire.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
And thank you, Bonnie, and team. I was the spokesperson and we came up with a lot of good brainstorming ideas for intellectual was our topic. We thought about in some of these things in intellectual in relation to Parkinson's, information and education, but also some things just about intellectual outside of PD. So we wanted to kind of mix that up and then groups could take that choice either way they want to go. We came up with book clubs, doing something, quarterly with the book club. Podcasts, are there something that's a little bit more easier, like are there podcasts? Oh, I know of a great guy out of the Mayo Clinic that does a podcast on the brain every week. We came up with movies and documentaries. We talked about some of the groups that are on Netflix, things like that. While it could be something around Parkinson's, it could also be a documentary. And when we thought about intellectual, how could we use our mind in other ways, expand, do something new, and maybe that is outside of Parkinson's. We talked about bucket lists, doing kind of an exchange of bucket lists, and then maybe if somebody wants to do X, maybe somebody else has done X and can talk about that. Research updates, and I know that's an obvious, and we do that. I know PMD Alliance does that, research updates, but still kind of constantly, there is a lot happening in Parkinson's, and a lot that's probably coming in the next, 5 years. Grand rounds. Again, we were just opening up a lot of ideas here. Some universities, some departments of neurology do open their grand rounds to others if you wanted to listen. That might not be for everyone. It's probably pretty dense material, but it is out there. Any kind of cognitive updates we talked about. And, could we have somebody speak around cognitive updates? Websites, puzzles, things like that also can be important for our minds and how to exercise our minds in different ways. And brain games, hobbies, whether that's poetry, crafts. And then we also talked about different apps. One particular that one liked was Walk Around the World. Every day it talks about a new place in the world. So again, some things Parkinson related, some things just intellectual stimulation. I'm going to stop and ask my team, Karen, Bonnie, did I miss anything? Steve.
Karen has a thumbs up and Bonnie did too. Anything from Steve? You okay?
And I can bullet point these out and send them to you, Shannon.
That's so Kelly and Rachel are taking notes right now. Did you get everything or would you like her to send? I think that they're good.
The one thing I forgot to mention is that we session, we generally play memory games, which seems to everyone enjoys playing.
That's fun. That's great. And that is a little teaser too, Steve, on what we're going to be talking about after the roundtable today, how to make our meetings dynamic and playful and fun, and just having more activity instead of just listening always. How can you get people engaged? Claire, that was a wonderful summary, and there's so much in there. Amazing. And I love the differentiation of, okay, we can educate and learn about Parkinson's and what we're going through with that. And we can expand in so many other areas of interest, and just become more interesting and interested people in general, to make us feel whole and fulfilled and all of those things. So thank you for all of that. So room number 4, excellent. Let's go to the 5th room, please. Anna Maria, Angela, Dave, and Kim.
Fortunately, I got picked to read the list again because I wrote it down.
No worries, voluntold.
I'm encouraging my team to unmute themselves in case I missed something or if they'd like to elaborate, because I'll just roll through the items that we discussed. First thing was with spirituality, being very careful about how we approach, to be sensitive to everybody's particular beliefs and or sensitivities. Also too, the other thing that was very careful is screening the speakers. So that would have to be done in advance of the meeting to make sure that somebody wasn't pushing their one particular ideal or philosophy. And then we had a discussion about the spirituality versus organization, not focusing on the organization itself, but talking about spirituality in a general sense. Anna Maria brought up that art, music, and poetry are great ways that you can express your spirituality, but do it in a way that is very sensitive. Not sensitive to the particular religion, but ways to express your spirituality to others.
Understood.
We also talked about sharing your personal passion. So it might be an opportunity for the members to share their personal passion. And we agree with some of the other points that were mentioned, getting ideas from the tribe, letting people submit their suggestions, sharing their personal ideas of how to approach the subject. Kim talked about the moderating, making sure it's very inclusive for the people who may be more advanced but don't talk very much versus the younger folks who may talk quite a bit. So we want to make sure it's very inclusive. And there might even be the option to have a professionally led discussion instead of just being the leaders doing and inviting professionals to come in, and or having a panel discussion where there are multiple ideas shared at the same time. So we didn't specifically talk about topics per se. We thought that these were important things that needed to be mentioned first before we even dove into what topics.
Yeah. You're really exploring some aspects of spirituality that we as a PMD Alliance team, Kelly, Rachel, and myself, we haven't necessarily heard some of these things before from some of our other roundtables. So you went in a different direction, and it's really interesting to hear. I'd love to just dive in a little bit deeper to what Kim mentioned about how could we allow for more sharing from the folks who are more advanced and have trouble speaking? Like, do you have any strategies in mind about that?
I've gotten to know most of the people in my groups on a one-on-one basis by just a phone call or coming a little early or a little late. I've been fortunate enough to do that. And I'm kind of a sarcastic humor type of person, and I talk nonstop. So it's easy for me to go up to somebody and draw them in with that, I think, without them realizing I'm doing it. And the next thing you know, they're a part of a conversation.
I see.
I don't know if that makes sense. I mean, I don't think it through, but it just tends to work that way.
Sure, sure. Utilizing humor maybe and just,
Well, because
yeah,
sometimes if you're afraid to talk, you're nervous. And if somebody can, take away some of that nervousness and that anxiety that you have from Parkinson's alone, and then you add the fact that, 10 people are staring at you waiting for you to say something.
right.
It works for us. It works for my group.
Great. I love that.
You have to assume that if people tune into a support group, they'd like to speak. They just might be fearful of it. And you have to just give them the opportunity, make them comfortable speaking about something, ask them about a baseball game, or did you see the Dodgers game last night or something, just to get them to speak. And but you gotta figure they want to talk and they want to hear other people speak if they're attending the group.
Absolutely. I listened to a professional webinar the other day, and it was about leadership and things like that. And something that was said, it was really acknowledging the fact that there are introverts in the room as well. So we have people with different personality types. And so, whether it's someone who might be more advanced in their disease state or people who are just a little more shy, so that leaders, if you are aware of when you ask a question, to allow time, and it's okay to be silent for a minute and you can count. Some people say they're ABCs, because as a leader, sometimes you want to fill in the space and fill in the gaps, and you're afraid to have the silence. But sometimes if we just allow it to be there, it's okay. And then someone will get the courage or come up with what it is that they want to say, or have the time to process mentally what it is that they want to say. And so just to remind ourselves of all of that, of being patient with everyone and ourselves.
I think also sometimes what they came with in their mind that they wanted to talk about may not necessarily be what we're discussing at the time, but it's at the forefront of their verbal and brain. And that's okay to have a subject change for a little bit, because if you have somebody that's an introvert, it takes a lot for them to do that.
Yes.
So we do a lot of bouncing around that way. We did a survey and asked in our group who saw themselves as introverts and who saw themselves as extroverts. There were only 2 of us that saw ourselves as extroverts. The rest of the room saw themselves as introverts. So that for me brought a challenge, but one I'm enjoying.
Wow. Very cool that you did that survey. And then you made aware for everyone in the group who identifies as what, and then it just like, oh, it's like an epiphany there. Like, we need to allow more time and space and comfort level. Yes, it takes time to build that for a lot of folks. So thanks for reminding us of that. That's great. I see Larry's hand is up.
Well, Shannon, I put my hand up just before you started talking about the introvert extrovert.
Okay.
I was going to bring that up, but I'll give an example of well, first of all, what we do for our group when we're kind of in a sharing mode, which is pretty much every week. That's primarily what we do. We support and share. We don't have too many topics, but we just go around in a circle. And everybody gets a chance to talk. The others are listening at that point. I like the term deep listening. I think we'll incorporate that. And if they want to pass, they can pass. In a discussion where you've got introverts and extroverts, in a discussion where it's kind of free thinking, you have an idea and you want to share, the extroverts tend to always, I'm one of them, we think out loud. And so we want to hear ourselves so we can formulate our thoughts, but that's a detriment to the introvert. So you can do what's called a rule of 3. 3 people talk before you talk again, for those extroverts. So
I love that one. That is
so I love that. If I take anything away from this whole webinar thing that we've done in 2 days, that's going to be
rule of 3.
Rule of 3.
Thank you.
That's a good one. Yes, and I'm sure we all either do it ourselves or we have experienced it when when others tend to share a lot more than others. And so that's maybe an objective agreement that you could have with your group, collaborative agreement, the rule of 3. And so it's spelled out from the beginning, and then it's just on people's minds. So, they might forget and trip up sometimes, and that's okay, and share more often, but at least it's out there, and you can remind people at the beginning of every meeting that this is how we would like to proceed. Dave, I see that you're unmuted.
I was going to say one thing I think that's overlooked. It's a small thing, but it's important. Is how you have the people seated. Are they facing each other? Are they all facing the front, or you're talking to the back of somebody's head, or are you facing each other in a circle or a semicircle? It's actually kind of important how you set up the room that you're in.
Highly important. Yes. When you think about classrooms and how we're all brought up, with the seats facing the teacher, and the dynamic, the hierarchy that exists with that. And so how is it that you can mix up and shift that?
You want to make it so they can have eye contact, and
yes,
not just talking to the back of somebody's head or something. So
right.
We found that to be important. So we set up our thing in like a semicircle, where you really don't have to crane your head too much to see everybody and anybody. And that tends to work out pretty well.
That's great. Thanks for pointing that out, Dave. I know Karen, I've been to several of her meetings when they were in person, and the round, well, she called it round table too, but it was literally a circle of chairs. And so going around the room, everyone, it's a literal physical embodiment of equality when you have a circle, right? And so that says so much underneath the surface. It's just, you're just, that's how you're presenting this group to be. And you could do small groups, like the picnic table idea that was brought up earlier. So just to think about that. And the resource guide that we provide, the manual, there's a page on that specifically, the logistics aspect of holding meetings. And so if you have not received one of these resource guides before, then you will be receiving that in the mail. And so you can look for that page. Great ideas here. Let's see here. I see Rachel. It would be interesting to see who in this group considers themselves an introvert or an extrovert. So who would be an extrovert? I think there'll be fewer hands. 1, 2, 3. Is that it? Anna Maria, Mary, okay.
Karen, you don't consider yourself an extrovert?
Can you be both?
Ira?
I don't, after reading a little bit more about introverts and extroverts. I can be an extrovert for a period of time, and then I need downtime.
Mm-hmm.
And
like an extroverted introvert.
Yeah, I need to retreat and have my downtime.
They call that ambivert, I think, people who are right on the line. And I would agree with that as well. Like I can be out and parties and social and crazy. And then I'm like, I need to retreat and be alone and no one talk to me. So it's both. It really is both. Mary, do you have something to contribute? Just have to unmute. We just can't hear you, Mary.
I just put it in the chat.
That Mary,
I think
we've got 2 Marys. I'm so sorry. Start with
a great book is called Quiet, and it's all about introverts and extroverts. And they label that in between ambivert as a social introvert. So you can be an introvert because that's where you get your energy. You get your energy by being alone. And that's the biggest difference between introverts and extroverts.
Mm-hmm.
And but you can go to a party and blab all night and then recover when you get back home.
Got it.
So
it's called Quiet.
It's called Quiet, and it's a really good book.
Great, thank you for that, Mary. And then Mary Farrell, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I had just put it in the chat that I think one of the big advantages of Zoom has, we're all looking at each other. We're seeing each other's face, we're seeing each other's eyes, our emotions.
Yes, we're tiny little 1-inch squares, which makes it a little harder if our vision is impaired at all. That's why I'm constantly like this in my camera, because I'm trying to see you better. It doesn't work that well. Yes, I've noticed that about myself. So sorry about that. But good point. At least we don't have masks on. Half of our
Right.
faces being shut off. It's so strange these days. Okay, we have one more group and we are over time, but I think it's important to go ahead and finish out our last but not least dimension of emotional, I believe it is. So that's Camille, Jim, Judith, and Mary Farrell. Did we have a leader?
You know what? I don't know that we really made a leader, but we started out the beginning of us trying to help Judith find a support group. Her main thing is that she hasn't been able to find a support group, and she lives in California. And I kind of suggested to her to find a movement disorder doctor or a hospital or something and go about finding that way. And then Jim was awesome, and he shared his email with her and invited her to join his Zoom support group out on the East Coast. So we figured that was an emotional thing, but we kind of got over that hurdle. I thought it was interesting when Jim was sharing with us that they meet, their support group meets every week and by Zoom. And I think I like this idea. Ours is once a month, and it's the care partners and the person with the movement disorder. And then we break off. We usually have a speaker, or if we don't have a speaker and it's a party like 4th of July or picnic or Christmas, then we go on to splitting it up, and there's 2 different rooms, and the care partners are in one and the person with the movement disorders in the other, facilitated by different people. And that's great, but what happens for the rest of the month? I liked his idea of the fact that they meet together one week. The next week, it's just the care partners, and the next week, it's just the people with the movement disorder that are in the Zoom. And so, because I think a lot of times in the emotional part, and we discussed this, people are not anxious to share things when they're together. We talked about the condition of where the care partner and the person with Parkinson's or whatever are together. And maybe that person doesn't want to share. The care partner doesn't want to say things for the fact that they may hurt the person, and the person with the movement disorder doesn't want to make their spouse or whoever it is worry. And so we talked about that aspect of it. Another thing that, and I want Camille to jump in. We had trouble. There were 4 of us, but we had trouble with Camille's audio. So if she has anything to say, I'd love to have her jump in and say it too, because we missed that. It wound up just being Judith and Jim and I. And another thing that I kind of brought up is the fact that emotionally, when you get the diagnosis, it would be neat if there was somebody other than just the doctor and you and your partner in the room. It's a life-altering diagnosis, and it's a long one. It's not like cancer, and you kind of know that, okay, this is the treatment. There's no defined treatment for it. And it would be nice, but I don't know how they could ever do that. They do it here at Anschutz. If you've gone to Colorado, to the University Hospital, and they do have a whole team, and the whole team is there, as well as a care partner support person.
Wow.
And which is awesome. I don't know any place else that does it. I feel sorry for all the people that cannot have that ability. Another thing that we kind of touched on is the role reversal, in the emotional aspect of the role reversal. You have been a spouse, and now you're a care partner. And it's hard for the person with Parkinson's to look at their care partner as their spouse. That person is taking care of them. Maybe they've lost their ability to even change a light bulb. You know, we don't know, and that could happen fast. It could happen down the road, but we have to still realize that you're a spouse. My husband and I just celebrated our 56th wedding anniversary. Wow. And he's been diagnosed with Parkinson's 2 days before his birthday 8 years ago, and today is his 79th birthday. So, you know, it's a road, and it's a road you go down, but we were spouses, and now I'm his care partner. And so I think like that if we could find somebody either through the VOA or a neighbor or something that could be a friend to them, take them for a walk, go, if they play golf, go to the club and maybe get lunch or do something where, or even help them change the light bulbs outside that they can't do, because then they feel like they're still the spouse.
Right. The balancing independence with the responsibility of care, and that's a hard thing to do, especially as the disease progresses, right?
But it's also very emotional, and I invite Jim and Judith and Camille to chime in and say whatever they thought.
Anything to add by the other group members?
Yeah.
You said many wonderful things, all very important things, and it's great to re-acknowledge the fact that the needs of care partners are different than the needs of people with a movement disorder, and that sometimes having a separate space to share with one another is ideal. It can't always happen. But just to remember that as we delve into the more emotional topics, that sometimes if you have a general group with many kinds of people in it, then you're only going to have a certain level of sharing occur there, because it's very personal and hard and sensitive to share.
And our care partner group that we do every week through Ann Shoots, what we start out with, we only do it for an hour, and it's only care partners. And we start out where we go around and we ask everybody what their week was like. What was your week like? What happened this week, or what was your week like, or what are your concerns? And then the last 10 minutes, we go around and everybody has to say something that was positive that happened that week, that they had gratitude for, or what made their week better.
That's great. Exactly. Yes. So allowing people to share like what's really going on, but then also maybe rounding out the meeting and ending on a positive note, and remembering what we do have with gratitude, or the win of the week, depending on how you want to phrase it, things like that. Great points there, Mary. Thanks to that last group. We had a lot of good things come out of this roundtable. Thank you all so much. And we went overtime on it, but I hope that you feel it was, productive in that way. And we will have notes for you. So I will suggest that we take a little break and then come back and finish the last half hour or so. So does that sound okay to everybody? A little bio break. Looks like people are snacking, having some lunch and things like that. Totally fine. Okay, so we're at 25 after 26. Why don't we say come back at 35 after? Does that sound good? It's enough time to get up and do what you need to do, stretch your legs. Mary, do you have something to say, or just see you then? See you then. Okay. All right, 35 after. We'll see you in a second. Start recording. And then Rachel can take over from here. So I will share and then give you control.
All right.
Remote control.
Okay, so we're going to discuss different ways to utilize this wellness wheel in your group. So here are a few different ways that we have figured it might work for you guys to dive in further into these dimensions with your support group. So you can do a survey of your support group members and kind of see what areas are most important to them that they want to cover. I think somebody already sort of discussed that as an idea for their group to kind of get a general consensus, kind of have it as a team approach, all working together. The next idea was that we can incorporate monthly deep dives. So basically taking one of each of these dimensions and doing them per month. So let's discuss the occupational wellness part of the wheel this month, and then discuss the different topics. And of course, like Shannon mentioned, Kelly and I have taken notes, so you will all get the notes that you have talked about, and so you'll get to sort of see the ideas that everybody's had with speakers and discussion topics for each of these dimensions. And of course, because there are 6, then you would do twice a year, once a month, twice a year. And then the other idea would basically be over time, focusing on one of these dimensions as a topic for that group, for that month, maybe giving people homework ahead of time, having them think about different things in that dimension, but doing a different dimension and just kind of making sure that 6 of them, all of them are covered over time. So with your packets and with all the information that Shannon's provided, you have printouts, or you have the ability to print these out, sort of these fact sheets from the Wellness Institute that has fill in the blank forms and sort of a self-assessment form for you to decide where you fall, how you're doing with each of these dimensions. So you can incorporate these tools into your groups as well. And we hope that you do, because these are ways to reflect. Yes, Bonnie is showing them to us now. These are ways to incorporate, ways to reflect on where you're at, where you want to be. You may be too much focused on the social part of the wellness wheel and not enough focused on the emotional or spiritual. So these are several tools and several ways and ideas to consider, making sure that everything is balanced, making sure that you're feeling well all around.
We don't want a flat tire, right? So we don't want a floppy side on one end, and so we want that wheel to feel nice and rounded out all the way around.
Okay, now the fun part. So how do you keep your group engaged? How do you keep them wanting to come back? There is something to be said about play with adults and how important it is. I apologize for the dogs barking in the background. Science says that doing enjoyable activities can have a lot of major benefits. So incorporating play, incorporating fun into your routines really can boost your brain, improve how your brain works. It can heal and help you establish and maintain relationships with people, whether they're immediate family members, whether they're group members, whether they're friends from outside of the Parkinson's community. Also, this improves all of your mental and emotional well-being. just, you know, putting a smile on your face can make a difference. And so I think having play puts a smile on your face, and having a smile on your face changes your attitude. And so I think all of it is full circle, all of it's connected. And this is a great way to improve your physicality, improve your emotional well-being, and all of it. So we have come up with different ideas and different ways to incorporate play into your groups and your meetings. And so whether you are still on Zoom, whether you're going to stay on Zoom, or whether you're going to start meeting in person, we have come up with several different ways to incorporate some play and some fun into your support group. So we have heard from groups that are live in person that start with music. They play some fun, upbeat music while people are entering that room. Kind of starts the mood. It gets you into a nice mood hearing that music. Then there are several icebreakers that can be played around with. Full of them, which everybody will be getting when we send you your packets after the fact. But each of you will be getting a packet of 12 meeting makers. And these meeting makers have 12 different icebreakers and discussions that you can have with your group. So basically once a month. Let's see, this particular one I'm reading has an icebreaker, a topic, and then a closing discussion. So if you could add one new accessory to your car, what would it be? And then you kind of discuss it as a group. Bells and whistles. Somebody might think of something practical for Parkinson's. Some people might think of adding some bass to their stereo system. So just lots of opportunities to have discussions and to sort of think about things maybe outside of Parkinson's every once in a while. Awesome affirmations is sort of like that gratitude practice that we did at the beginning. This is a way for us to share each other's greatnesses. So pointing out, you know, Joe, you've said some wonderful things today. Thank you. And, you know, Anna Maria, your smile is brightening up the room. Thank you. And so just going around the room and giving people positive affirmations. And then also, it was just discussed to kind of go around the room at the end. Somebody said that they leave about 20 minutes at the end to discuss wins of the week. So what are some of the positive things that have been going on in your life? And then the weather report is sort of like the thermometer that we've been using the last 2 days, where you're asking people their general weather report. Are you in a sunshine state, or are you in a foggy, blustery, windy state? And you could kind of picture that person's attitude and how they are acting based on that weather report, possibly. There are groups that have told us that they have a resident joke teller. So, you know, there's lots of Parkinson's talk and maybe a lot of emotions that go on throughout these support groups, these sessions that you have, but leave those last few minutes maybe for a joke. Leave everybody going home with a smile or a laugh on their face and on their mind. Doing some more physical activities. So that mirroring example that we did at the beginning of this program yesterday, wonderful way to sort of be in your physical body. And like I said, you know, turn your brain off and just move your body according to that mirror. And dancing, Tai Chi, Qigong, like Anna Maria had mentioned. And then incorporating that physical wellness into the group by having a support group meet in a park and go for a walk. We have several support group leaders that we've heard from that meet and do a hiking support group or do a walking support group. And then you could end up you know, at the same pace as some of your friends, and some people move faster and they connect with other people, and the slower folks stick with the slower folks and have their chats as they walk. But a way for people to sort of incorporate that nature and that socialization into your groups. And then there are all sorts of photo walks are great. So I imagine that must be taking photographs while you're walking and maybe comparing them to one another. That would be fun too. There's all sorts of games that you can incorporate, art activities. We've heard of people that maybe have a sewing affinity, and they want to have a separate sewing group and things like that. We at PMD Alliance have put together in connection with Supernus Pharmaceuticals, I believe, this I Am Poetry project, which I think a few of you have been to one of our workshops before, but essentially it is a thinking outside of your own head about who you are, where you're from, memories of your life, and sort of it makes you realize that you're more than your disease. And so this is a really wonderful poem project that we have come up with. We have a toolkit for you, and we have a few recordings of some of the workshops that we've done in the past for you to incorporate maybe this I Am Poetry project with your group. And there are different ways of doing that too, partnering up with people, having maybe a specific group that loves workshops and writing. Maybe the rest of your group doesn't. So maybe an offshoot of that. And then I don't know if this is happening so much right now, but several of the support groups talk about gathering outside of those support group hours. So some of the groups meet for a happy hour, and some groups meet for holiday get-togethers. Somebody mentioned on the call. So these are definite ways of, you know, having some engagement, having people want to be involved, and getting people together. And then the hobby-oriented small groups is what I just mentioned. If there is an affinity, if you've got, you know, a half of your group that loves cooking, maybe you get together and have sort of a cooking class together. Or your book clubs that you have suggested. These are all really great ways to incorporate so many of these wellness parts of the wheel into your group. So I think that adding fun and adding play is going to incorporate just general well-being for everybody. And these are ways to do that. And we are open-eared if other people have suggestions, if anybody wants to unmute and talk about fun that they have or an idea that they have. Anybody?
I'll go. You mentioned hikes. That's proven to be very successful for us. We have them once a month on the average, and we've been drawing about 30 to 35 people.
Wow.
And
wow.
Like you mentioned, Rachel, they go off and we kind of start off all together, and then we break off in different groups just naturally. It just naturally happens by speed. Then it's always an out and back type course. So the people coming who went out faster end up coming back, and they meet up with the other groups, and they end up splitting off again. You know, people start talking about their own things. So the hikes have proved, and then after the hike, sometimes we'll sit out on a patio by the senior center where we meet, and we'll just chat and stuff like that, and drink water, catch up. The hike is a good idea.
Mm-hmm. And Dave, you have also brought other ideas to the table. I think you have, or used to have, your Saturday morning coffee chat.
Yeah.
And so this was an opportunity for just an open forum on a Saturday morning for people to join in. And I believe it was on Zoom during COVID, that people could just jump on, chat with one another. No necessary topics to have on tap, but just to have that social interaction
Yeah, and
when
that's worked
people
out
feel so
well.
isolated.
Angela and her husband Carl participate in that Zoom cafe quite a bit.
Oh, nice. Oh, all the way from Virginia.
Yeah, we
Awesome.
always kid Carl. We're trying to get Carl to come to one of our walks, and so
Yeah, we keep waiting for the pickup. Yeah.
we're always telling Carl we're going to pick him up.
Nice. Nice. Thank you,
Good
Dave.
morning.
And now, Larry, do you have ideas, or do you already incorporate, or?
Yeah, one thing that we do, we partner with the Alzheimer's Coachella Valley. They're actually just in the last year and a half became kind of the parent group, if you will, that took us on as a Parkinson's support group, because we weren't associated with anybody, and we now meet at their headquarters, which gives us the technology that I talked about yesterday. But one thing that they have done for the last several years that we participate in socially is it's called the Dementia Friendly Cafe. And we meet once a month. We haven't started back up yet, but we meet once a month at PF Chang's. They have a separate kind of a room, and it's our room. And so we have half the room is a table of people that have Alzheimer's and their care partners, and then there's the Parkinson's table, and we all kind of mix together, but we kind of meet and socialize, and we've just really enjoyed that. It's been fun to go to a restaurant and feel comfortable amongst ourselves, and just
Right.
and we really don't talk much about Parkinson's. You can,
That's
but
fine.
it's a social hour. We do that once a month. It's really nice. It's on our calendar.
Larry, can I
Wonderful.
ask you on a personal level when that is? I go down there and I have yet to find anything in the Coachella Valley that's
Oh,
Parkinson's related. So,
yeah. Well, I should give
or,
you.
or could you put your email in the chat? Or
I'll do that. I'll do that for you. Sure.
I would appreciate that.
Okay.
I love these connections, especially with this national group. I mean, it's going to be so wonderful when you guys are able to share your ideas with each other far and wide. Roger, what do you have? What kind of fun do you have with your group?
Just to make mention, so one of the things that we did one time for a topic was laughter yoga. I found a couple of really good videos on TED Talks and YouTube about laughter yoga. So what we do at the beginning of each meeting, the first 10 minutes, I pick out a video on YouTube, Jim Gaffigan, Brian Regan, Jeff Foxworthy. And the first 10 minutes, we just, laugh our heads off and get our lungs going. And that, but like, it gets everybody full of endorphins, and they're all happy. And the meeting, it sets a meeting off on a really positive tone.
That's a terrific idea.
Yeah.
Laughter
zombie.
yoga.
Mm-hmm.
Also kind of reminds me of something that I forgot to mention on this, which is the improv and theater games, which is an idea that we've come up with. Several months ago, we had improv for Parkinson's, and we learned a really fun game to think positively, quickly, and bounce positivity off of each other, sort of in an icebreaker way, but also sort of in a fun, round the room way of this game that's called What's Not Wrong With You. And so you go around the room and you quickly say, hey, Kelly, what's not wrong with you? And then Kelly says,
I was looking for my unmute button, Rachel. And then Kelly says, that I woke up today full of energy.
super. Excellent. And you go around the room and you popcorn and you bounce off of each other, and then people start thinking positively. And so that's another great way, like Roger, how they have the laughter in the beginning, another great positive way to be together.
Another game that's gone over very well with us is Two Truths and a Lie. You ever play that
Yes.
game? People
A fun
love
way to
that.
get to know each other too.
Exactly. It's a great way, and it's a lot of fun because people make up some wild stories.
And people probably have some wild stories that are true.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a guy that used to play with Merle Haggard. And if you know anything about Merle Haggard, he's pretty wild. And we got a guy who was in the Merle Haggard band, and he's got some good stories to tell.
Wow.
Another good game is question. You cannot answer the question. You have to pose yours as another question. This makes for very, very funny discussions and stuff like that as people get.
You just keep out questioning each other.
Why do you think?
Very fun.
Yeah, what would be an example of that, Joe?
I just said, why did you say that?
Why are you asking me why I said that?
Well, I have to think about that because I'm wondering why other people are letting me do this. And so
I'm
on.
sure it could go on and on.
Yeah.
But yes.
See, laughter falls over the crowd.
Crickets.
And I think
Thank you, Joe.
sometimes you spend time laughing at the other people who are laughing more than what you're seeing on the screen. Is watching the people laugh it's worth $1 million.
Absolutely.
Yep, you're right. Well, we are a minute left. We have a minute left in our group. So let's see what Shannon has left for us.
Yes, I just have one question for you. I know what Kim's answer is going to be, but what is your number one takeaway from this workshop? So you can put it in the chat. You can unmute yourself. I just love to hear what's one nugget that you know you'll take with you as we move forward into this crazy future.
I'm going to cheat and tell you I have a second one too, because my typing on the iPad's not good. I also am going to delegate because that's my problem. I can't do everything I want to do. And so I feel like I'm cheating people in my groups because I don't think anybody can do it as good as me. So I don't delegate.
Got it. That self-awareness piece. Love it. Okay, great. Now Kelly says, yes, thank you, Kim, for being here. Kelly says Romeo. She's taken that one with her. That's stuck in my head too. Gratitude, delegating again, energizing ideas for meetings. All the ideas.
We all need support.
Yeah.
Groups.
Support group leaders need support too. And I'll plug, by the way, hopefully you've been getting the emails for it. We have an end of year roundtable discussion for support group leaders, no matter where you are. It's only an hour and a half and it's on December 13th. It's a Monday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Would love to have you join us. And so that again is like a support group for you as support group leaders to check in on a regular basis. Chat storm, gratitude chat storm is fun. The wealth of ideas to incorporate, awesome. What's not wrong with you is good. Yes, so many things that we discussed and that came from you all. And it's generated from you, the experts. So thank you all.
Angela, you've got your hand raised.
Oh, yes.
I was going to ask Shannon and Rachel, is PMD Alliance had any interest in creating like a support group leader support group meeting on more than just a couple times a year basis, but maybe even something that would meet quarterly or monthly even?
That would be my program. And so if that's something that we feel would be helpful, I'm absolutely welcome to or not welcome, but game to.
Would that SG, a support group for
support group.
SG for SGLs. So we're going to use all the acronyms.
SG for SGLs. Great.
Yes. So if that is a request, Angela, I can definitely. I'm
tossing out the idea. We're following the group is here, the tribe is here. Let them.
Yeah, for sure. And so that helps me know that that's what you're interested in. And I'm open ears to any ideas that you have as far as trainings are concerned. So I will take that into account and put those on the calendar. And you all should be on our list now, our support group leader specific list for all of our support group events. I'm going to stop my share so we can see each other's faces as we round out. If I can get it to go up there.
Before we say goodbye and stuff like that, can you like send that just to the support group leaders group, to just us and the people that are in the support group? Because you guys generate a lot of mail. So does Finney, so does Fox. And if I see something that says support group leaders or something like that, I might catch it a little quicker. And be able to, it just helps me manage everything is really what I'm asking.
Yes, that is something our marketing folks try to do, is in the subject line, indicate it's something for support groups, just so it's not lost in the mix of everything else that we're sending out, because we do have so many events that we do, which is good and hard when you're getting all those emails filling up your boxes. So we will definitely continue to do that, Joe. Data overload, yes. Zoom fatigue, all the things. We need to be out in real life and be real people sometimes too. So balance is the key. But on that note, thanks for spending 6 hours, with us. I really appreciate your dedication to yourselves and to your group members, to each other, and everything you contributed. So hats off to all your efforts. Thank you so much. And I am here for you in any way I can help support. So just please be in touch, and lovely having you. We'll do this again. We'll do another national version of our workshop next year with new content, depending on what happens in the world. So we'll see.
Exactly.
But great.
Thank you all so much
So
for
nice to meet you.
your dedication today and yesterday, and to your groups. It means so much to us that you're willing to take this time and then run with it. Go to your groups and thrive.
Excellent.
Thank you, Shannon, Rachel, and
Thank you
Kelly.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you,
Appreciate
everybody.
Be looking for the follow-up stuff.
Enjoy the rest
Thank you.
of your weekend.
Yes.
Gracias.
Happy Saturday.
Ciao.
Great
Bye-bye.
seeing you. Take care.
Ciao.